Hello and welcome to this week's AI panel. I am joined by two spectacular guests. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. They are here to discuss artificial intelligence ahead of the Digital Transformation EXPO. How are you both today?
Feeling good.
Very well, thanks.
Fantastic. Could you both introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do and what company you work for?
My name is Colin Fernandes. I'm the EMEA Product Marketing Director for Sumo Logic. Sumo Logic is a secure cloud-native machine data analytics platform delivering continuous intelligence for customers who are delivering their applications, really the end-to-end application lifecycle.
Fantastic.
And yeah.
Brilliant.
Very good. And I'm Patrick Smith, so I'm the field CTO for Pure Storage, covering EMEA. And Pure Storage are a data solution provider. And our mission is to help our customers deliver a better world with data. Data is becoming more and more important in all industries and all verticals. And we provide technologies that can help our customers get the most from their data.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both for joining us. We are really happy to have you here. So let's get straight to it. How important is AI and machine learning in organizations at the moment?
So, lovely question. Get this all the time. So, just from I think from a Sumo Logic perspective, and from really speaking on behalf of the customers, we look at machine learning and machine intelligence as a critical component to really moving forward into the AI world. So when we talk about machine learning, deep learning, there's a lot of data out there. So I think we've been talking about this. It's interesting to realize how much data is being generated. The other is, I think, technology. This is my 33rd year in IT, and for all my career, data has been important. But today, it's interesting to understand the tiers in a service. I think we were just talking about the importance of storage, but infrastructure, and the other is it's a distributed world. So technologies today like containers and Kubernetes are just creating another layer of complexity. And so what we're seeing today is that velocity, that variety and speed and volume of data is huge.
I think it's hard to escape AI today. Every time you turn on the radio or the TV, every time you open a newspaper, AI is front and center of the agenda. And it's being driven by so many different industries, whether it's healthcare, and we saw announcements this week around big investments in AI for the NHS in the UK, whether it's automotive and all the work going on with the automotive industry to make driving safer and ultimately potentially lead to autonomous driving, or whether it's the world of manufacturing, seeking to reduce defects, improve quality, and improve time to market in products. And AI is helping to drive all those things. And as you say, Colin, it's underpinned firstly by data and the massively growing data sets. Secondly, by compute power that we've never had access to before. And thirdly, by improved algorithms. And you put those three things together, and you have the ability to take AI from something that's always been science fiction to something that is now real for pretty much everybody on the street. So I think it almost feels like the genie is now out of the bottle as it relates to AI. There's no going back. We are now in a society and a world that is driven by AI.
And I feel that even this year it's increased, and the awareness. We're very excited to be part of the event coming up, because I think there is a perception and there's a reality now. But the other one is a new world, a modern world. And that's really exciting when new businesses are competing for that business and realizing that analytics, AI, new types of applications, pervasive applications are demanding, I think, a new breed of delivery and services for the market today.
So what do you think some of the typical challenges are that enterprises are addressing with AI applications?
So for me, I can actually say, I'll try and bucket them because I actually think about this every day. One is vendors in general, traditional vendors versus the modern vendor. So everybody's trying to drive, that agenda around artificial intelligence. And for me, technology has changed and grown, but the tiers have remained the same. Infrastructure, storage, networking, applications. But the challenges today is for customers to actually look at the quality of intelligence. You talked about algorithms. Today also, the other side of the coin is how much data is actually out there. I think I was talking earlier about the fact that some customers will actually give us large amounts of data in terabytes within hours. And some are just, we're seeing that with many of the customers, there's just a growth curve. So the importance is actually how your algorithms work. The other one is actually taking the noise away and focusing on the data that's important. And I think customers are not struggling, but are really trying to realize what are the challenges around operations. And the other one is actually around security. And not treating security as a separate afterthought, but when you're taking any service, to build, secure, and run your applications requires an understanding about the data and the quality of that data.
Yes, and I think there are a few dimensions that are causing that drive to adopt AI. Firstly, it's the competitive nature of various markets. So especially if you look at financial services, we're seeing the rapid rise of challenger or neobanks, and they're incredibly agile. They don't have a big legacy of technology or of people or of regulation for that matter. And they're able to use new technology to deliver differentiated value.
Yes.
And it's causing the legacy banks or the large well-established banks to look at what they have that those challenger banks don't have. And what they have is data, and they have vast amounts of data. And I think by taking that data set and using AI techniques on it, they're able to compete with those challenger or neobanks with differentiated offerings, differentiated in a different way.
Yes.
And so the competitive landscape is absolutely causing this almost an AI race to stay ahead of one another. And if you're not doing it, you have to do it to remain competitive.
I was going to ask, what do organisations need to do to better leverage AI technologies? You sort of just touched on it, but is there anything specific or particular that you would suggest or recommend?
Well, from my side, I think one is to actually understand. Firstly, the competition always exists. Your business model.
Absolutely.
The other one is cost. It's amazing. I actually talk about the inverted cost pyramid because I came from a traditional on-prem environment. Now I'm actually in the cloud, but also working with hybrid and multi-cloud deployments. The interesting thing at the end of the day is to be aware of your costs and look at the best services and offerings that make sense for you. And I think out there today is that there are a lot of customers, I think, who are slowly realizing that they need to look at the cost of what they deliver to how agile and more efficient they can become. Hearing today, the word reliability. How reliable are you? How secure are you? Every day, I don't know, you hear in the news about, security, breaches, issues. That's a really major issue, and I think it's an important thing to look at how you can actually recognize your company and also look at your brand and make sure that you protect your assets of your users and your customers.
I think one of the big challenges with people getting started on their AI journey is firstly to understand what the business outcome they're looking to drive is, and then how well the data that they have supports that desire for a different business outcome. If you look at some of the challenges that companies are facing, one of the biggest ones is we talk about AI being supported by vast amounts of data, compute power and algorithms, but probably the most competitive space is actually recruiting and hiring the right skill sets to be able to take those three things and deliver the desired business outcome. We see that as being one of the most challenging areas for companies, is how can I hire the right people? And those people typically want to make sure that they're moving into an organization that is going to support their personal objectives in terms of where they want their career to go, and also to make sure that their leadership is providing them with the right freedom, the right sets of data, but also, from our perspective, the right technology platforms, that means that they're productive, that they're not sitting around waiting for slow legacy compute or storage infrastructure to give them an answer. They're less interested in sitting there drinking coffee than they are in delivering business outcomes and insight.
That's so nice, because when we talk about democratizing data, that's Sumo's tagline in terms of how difficult it is to give you the right data at the right time securely. And the other one is, it's so nice to hear, but it's true, is the skill shortage. I go to many events from AWS to Google, and you see a plethora of developers and security architects, but they're very skilled, but they're very few. And then all of a sudden you look at the whole stack, and you then start to see that it's not just infrastructure, it's not just Kubernetes, it's the database, it's the runtime. What's interesting is content delivery networks. Looking at how media and films are consumed today, on demand. It's just So, and how do you manage this? So I think I was quite I believe that skill shortage is just something that's not going to be resolved overnight.
No, absolutely, and actually it's one of the reasons why we have a close partnership with NVIDIA on providing a solution that we refer to as AIRI, AI-ready infrastructure, which is effectively an AI in a box capability that includes the storage to host the data, the compute, and also networking to provide a balanced high-performance AI infrastructure together with a curated set of software. That means that those resources have a much faster time to value, rather than having to build the stack themselves, different every time, no reuse of learning or understanding. And to be able to get to value quickly is why we created AIRI. It's all about making those data scientists as productive as possible. In the same way, we always try and make sure that the compute infrastructure is as productive as possible, feeding it with data as quickly as it can consume it. Because it's interesting, when people have invested in technology to run their AI environments, they then want to maximize that investment, and that means running it as close to 24/7, 365 as they possibly can.
So what are some of the newer uses of AI that's being used at the moment that organizations are adopting?
So some of the use cases here are, content delivery networks. That's really producing high scale demand on demand, elasticity, just enough, just in time. Meter it, measure it, and tell me what I've paid for. I think the other is, back to your point, is I think people want to benchmark themselves against others. So something that we've thought of at Sumo Logic is we've got we're born and bred on AWS from day one. So that has taught us a lot about cloud. But it's great to run that service. But to your point, it's actually based around what else do you give? Yeah, so data scientists, knowledge, people. The other one is process. If I can do it in an agile way, within minutes, you don't have to spend all that time. Yeah, so managing a release that takes 6 months. But this requires, I think, a certain type of person that is willing to change, wants to change the company. At times, I think it was one of the questions that was posed to me is that which industries are doing are taking on the cloud in such a big way. I think most industries are. It's actually the individual that wants to change, wants to drive a modern business. I've seen SaaS for most of my life, but having a cloud native SaaS offering with expertise and really driving the concept of agile delivery, these are things that are really important for promoting today. So it's actually part of the DNA of the whole company, not to just deliver a service. And I think security and compliance is going to play a very big part in this, in terms of what we're experiencing politically and changes in our world today is trust. And what do you do with that data, and where does that data actually come from?
I think that's a really good point. The cyber landscape and the cyber threat landscape is becoming so complex that simply managing it with legacy technologies is incredibly difficult. And you absolutely can't rely on humans to manage the threat landscape that we see today. So there are many industries now where AI is the only answer to managing these complex environments. We look at the advances going on in telecommunications. We look at, the cyber threat landscape. We also look at the massive advances that we're seeing in facial recognition and how facial recognition is being used, and I think that's a really interesting use case because it shows that there is still quite a way to go. Yeah. It is not perfect yet, and even though we talk about having data sets that are larger than we've ever had access to before, they're still not large enough to give us the really accurate answers that I think society and all of us expect.
And I think I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's very interesting when customers ask you or use terms like threat hunting or detecting threat. On looking at patterns for abnormal behavior. It's quite interesting to know that you don't have to wait for something to happen. You can actually detect something, and we look for those modern businesses who are actually driving threat hunting, threat detection, finding and fixing and protecting. So security is not just privacy, it's reliability and it's trust. But when you bring it down to a bare minimum, you have process A and process B, and there's data being shared between those two. Is that data consistent? Can you trust it? And where's it come from? So I think today we've got to look at, crowdsourcing. There's so many people in the chain. So how do you trust that data? I think, how do you become that confident about sharing the right data and act as that person on behalf of somebody else? And I think that's really important today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We have actually run out of time.
It went so quickly.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Everything that you've said has been really insightful and very interesting. I've definitely taken something away from today, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's all from us for now. Thank you very much and goodbye.